Hi everyone, I am Adam from Trade with Precision and welcome to Vantage Markets Inside the Markets. So inside the charts, I beg your pardon. So let's have a quick look. Let's kick off with the dollar index. So I think it's very significant at this point. Yes, we are testing a historical level of, we're close below 100. We're testing a level of support. Right now, the market is a bit overextended. We could potentially still find a bit of support in this area. That is a possibility, but I think it's becoming predominantly clear that the dollar itself is looking pretty weak at the moment. So what I'm actually looking for at the moment, the momentum looks nice and bearish. I'm looking to see this week if we're going to break through and keep going. So in other words, if we're going to do a break and then a retest and a continuation, or if we're going to manage to do a bit of a pullback where we are now and then a continuation down. So a lot of the markets are sitting at key price levels. That's something to watch out for. We look at the euro dollar here. It could potentially be forming a little bit of an ascending triangle here. Let me just draw that out. So we'll see if that ultimately plays out this week. We're also sitting at a relatively key level here. Not a little bit overextended, consolidating here, moving its way towards the moving averages. So really what we want to see is whether we get a pullback here in a continuation or whether we break and then have a pullback this week. Sterling as well, you can see pushing on, you can see the candles getting a little bit smaller here, but they're not necessarily showing increased signs of weakness. So at this point in time, again, also here, this looking though it has, although it is a little bit overextended from the moving averages, it does look as though it looks a little bit more inclined to keep going. So pushing, hitting at a dollar weakness there. Now, again, I beg your pardon, dollar weakness. Now, if we look at Aussie dollar, US dollar, we're sitting at a key level here. I see a little bit of bearish divergence here. So again, I want to see if we get a pullback or we do a breakout. But if we break through this, it's very likely that will, again, just add to that dollar weakness. Kiwi dollar, very similar, again, overextended. A lot of these would benefit from a bit of a natural pullback, but we are not really in normal times at the moment, so the market can suspend its normal rules of behavior. So let's have a look at dollar yen. Again, dollar yen a little bit far away from the moving averages. I'd love to see a pullback and a continuation down, but if it's continuing to be weak, we'll just see it continue down, become much more overextended. Dollar CAD as well, here just continuing to push lower. I think when we look at this from a monthly perspective, it gives us a really good sense of where we are. We've got a nice level here that was resistance. I want to see if we find some support here. But if we do break down through this and we break this low here, again, that's just going to add to that belief that that dollar is going to continue to weaken. So again, I think for me now, it's watching these key levels to see how the market reacts this week. Dollar Swissy, just noting that it did break out of this range that it's been in for almost a year. It's broken through that. So again, this just kind of adding to that idea that we'll potentially see a continued weaker dollar. Let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look at gold, actually. So gold's very much in a bubble. So what does that mean? It means from a practical perspective, gold, we should just not try to anticipate what it's going to do. We should just observe and follow it, all right? At this point in time, the candles are getting bigger, which is something that can potentially happen towards the end as it gets more and more manic. However, it would be very dangerous, I think, to try to anticipate that it's going to, potentially, change trend. I think for now, let's assume that it's in an uptrend until we start to see lots of clear continued signs that it is clearly no longer in an uptrend. So I think the weekly and the daily is going to continue to offer that. So for now, I'm looking for any pullbacks on the daily into the moving averages and then looking for buying opportunities. Silver, I'm actually staying away from. I'll show you why, because when I look at this over here, and although it does have plenty more upside, it's really not trending the same way that gold is. It's not moving to the upside as much. It's not, despite what some people might believe, it's not visually, I can't see it enjoying the same kind of growth that gold is. All right, let's have a quick look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you could see back in the moving averages here, potentially going to form a bullish candle. We'll have to see how the week ultimately closes out. And then let's have a quick look at the global market. So the Dow here coming down, testing level of support. Yes, again, it's very important. We've got 10 days left in the month. We need to see how this closes. If it closes right up, we're going to see another attempt to push it back up to the highs. But if it fails to do that, then it becomes much more likely we'll see further downside. If we look at it from a weekly perspective, we're now in a bear market, or at least we're not in a bull market anymore, and so it is reasonable to expect further downside. We've literally just broken below this. If we look historically at this was the last time we kind of broke below that, was the bear market, and again COVID prior to that. Okay, so this would imply that we're in the early stages of further downside. The same analysis for the S&P, you can see the candles getting bigger, so the volatility is increasing. It's not decreasing. We need to see what happens here. And this, the 50-period moving average, really representing the main challenge. The NASDAQ as well, here we could see also, again, everything sitting below that 50-period moving average on the weekly, which is traditionally a sign of bearishness, and we've just broken below it. So it just kind of hints that unless something very unusual happens and we can completely reverse the current sentiment, that we're much more likely at the beginning or the early stages of further downside or continued bearishness. Just noting here, the FTSE as well managing to try to attempt to find support. For me, what I'm going to be looking for over the coming months is to see how not just how the US markets react, but how the rest of the world, the non-US markets, subsequently react. Because historically, if the US markets catch a cold, everybody else catches a cold. So I really want to see if, if the US is going to be entering a period of struggling, sort of in terms of the market behavior or uncertainty. I'm curious to see how the non-US markets will cope. Will they reflect that, or will they actually tend to sort of uncouple from the US markets? And that has, I think, has longer term implications for what the next couple of years might potentially be like. So the DAX, for example, here on the monthly, it's one of the best trending ones outside the US. Looks really good. And we're back into this area. So I want to see how this ultimately closes. If this continues to climb, that could be a very positive sign. And then finally, just crude oil here, noting that it has broken through a massive level of support. And now I'm really looking to see if we find resistance and therefore continue to the downside. And if we do, we've got much more downside to come, down towards that $40 mark. There we go, ladies and gents. Lots of exciting things happening in the markets. Let's keep an eye on it. Let's be a little bit much more risk averse. I think for now, much more cautious. Thank you very much.